Crypto people are obsessed with lines, circles, patterns, and cycles of all kinds. They don't make first principles arguments. They make ideological statements about aspirational things they would like to see that don't yet exist. Let me state my bias up front. I'm not a fan of technical analysis, mostly because it gets abused by people who don't know what they're doing. It's the justification for shallow arguments. People don't want to do the homework necessary to understand a company, industry, or macroeconomic conditions.
I think that there are four big forces that determine what an economy is like. Those are productivity, short-term debt cycle, long-term debt cycle, and politics.
We have to deal in things that we're capable of understanding. And then once we're over that filter, we have to have a business with some intrinsic characteristics that give it a durable competitive advantage. And then, of course, we would vastly prefer a management in place with a lot of integrity and talent. And finally, no matter how wonderful it is, it's not worth an infinite price. So we have to have a price that makes sense and gives a margin of safety considering the natural vicissitudes of life.
Instead, they follow trends and momentum with silly statements like,
if he comes back down here again and doesn't do something like this, then you're most likely going to break down and most likely take out the low. So
think about that statement carefully. If it stops going down, it will go back up. And if it doesn't stop going down, then it will keep going down. How completely useless. If a pattern breaks, they have no idea why. They just look for the next one. If you aren't learning from your mistakes, you will repeat them. It's also silly to expect charts will successfully guide everyone's trading decisions when they're all trading against each other with the same charts. And if you're watching this video, most probably the guy on the other side of that trade is a supercomputer sitting a few meters from the exchange running high-frequency trading algorithms written by PhD quants who spend their lives studying the patterns. And you have, what, a couple YouTube gurus and Robinhood? Technical analysis is not a precise tool. It's not gospel. It's not an exact science. And it can be incredibly contradictory. For the same asset, you often get buy signals in one chart and sell signals in another. Which chart do you believe? Probably the one that least triggers your cognitive dissonance. Technical analysis is about probabilities. Proponents will argue that a pattern only needs to be correct more often than not for it to be profitable. The problem, of course, is that statistics is probably the least intuitive discipline in mathematics. Most people end up being overly confident in weak signals and rely on technicals as a crutch for beliefs not backed by data or logic. Technical analysis relies on three basic assumptions, which are not always true. The market discounts everything, which means all available information from fundamentals to market psychology is already priced in. Does anybody really believe that anymore? News happens every day and most people have no idea what's going on. Prices move in trends. There are a large number of patterns analysts look for in the charts, like astrologists looking at the stars. If you stare at any sequence of numbers long enough, you will find some kind of pattern. That doesn't mean you could have predicted it in advance. History repeats itself. History does often repeat itself, but usually that's only obvious in hindsight. None of this means the charts provide zero information. It's just another tool. It just happens to be one of the most misunderstood and abused tools by people looking to avoid doing the work of having to understand context and other complicated things.
They do enormous damage to the rest of us with their damn locker room culture that has to win. And is not very squeamish about what they have to do to win.
Also known as people who buy crypto. If you found this content helpful, please consider liking the video and subscribing to my channel. It really does help get this channel more exposure and keep me motivated to produce more content.